This is The Process Shot. I'm Michael. I'm stuck in a haunted movie theater, and I've seen Catherine called Birdy, a new medieval coming-of-age comedy drama from director Lena Dunham. It follows the titular character, the daughter of a local lord whose family is facing potential financial ruin. While Birdy would much rather live out her teenage years with all the fun that girls her age are generally forbidden from having, her father has little choice but to marry her off to a wealthy suitor, though Birdy does her best to make this as difficult as possible for everybody involved. However, that's not as easy as it seems, as her attempts to hide or outright ignore her maturity becomes a bit outpaced by those around her, whose lives are moving on just as hers is, the usual sort of adolescent growing pains, but this time it's medieval, and it's not happening to me. That's probably a good place to start, since the main idea of the movie seems to be in meshing the historic settings and archaic environments with more modern concepts and ideas. And most of all, how even perhaps in medieval times, the situations faced on an individual level may not be as different as they are in the present. The dialogue and writing also finds a great balance between using newer means of expression or even modern standards and practices, while keeping to its roots as a historical piece, all while further keeping things generally upbeat and positive. It manages this all better than most other movies I've seen that try and fail to find a good balance, and for that I give this movie some points. However, I will add that the overall plotting does leave a bit to be desired, trying to balance two concurrent storylines, those being Birdy's personal issues and the matter of the arranged marriage. It ultimately feels a bit more back and forth between specific events, rather than really intertwining the two more cleanly. I will also say that outside of Birdy and those she's closer to, the development of characters isn't really as strong as it could be. Some are sidelined, others have no development, and in one or two cases any progression we get comes less naturally, almost out of nowhere and closer to the story's end to ensure a happy ending for everyone. Again, it's not a complete detriment given the tone the filmmakers are going for, but it's still a bit noticeable, for me at least. Maybe I just hate fun. Anyways, the production design of the movie is pretty well handled, leaning in more on the medieval setting and imagery. And not only that, but also foregoing the almost traditional luxuries of these locations in favor of something much more plain, and dare I say, relatable. There seems to be a decent mix between location shoots and set pieces, with a pretty good blend between the two, which makes them feel relatively seamless. Or at the very least, not so obvious that it becomes a distraction. Cinematography frames it all pretty well, though it does focus more on practical shot work than anything more expressive or stylized. Not that camera work is lacking, of course, just that it's generally more about framing characters than the whole scene. Editing is also cut along those practical lines as well, though it does keep things moving at a good pace and well in line with the emotional content of the story. Color choices are pretty muted and neutral, which leaves the visual makeup somewhat underwhelming, but does play into the story setting and the less than luxurious lives of the characters. As for the soundtrack, the blending between old and new comes back with covers of pop songs, done with some stripped-back instrumentation, at a few points sounding almost as if they came straight out of a medieval period. It does feel more minimalist than medieval, which is unfortunate since that could have really cemented what I think is meant to be the central takeaway of the whole film. When it comes down to it, it really feels like this is a film made for its story, and its story is made to show that coming of age is a sort of threshold that every teenager has to endure, even centuries in the past. Then again, this movie is historical fiction, so I'm sure there were some artistic liberties taken, but that's for another review, probably from someone who isn't me. Catherine called Birdy, Lena Dunham, 2022. 3 stars. I'd say it's worth a watch. That's it for this review. If you liked it, leave a like. If you have something to add, leave a comment. Subscribe to the channel for more reviews. The past few movies have all been outside of whatever demographic I assume I'm stuck in. I wonder if this theater thinks I've reverted to a childlike state. Joke's on them. I've always been like this.